Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond Beliefs. Today we've got a very special guest. Before we get to that, my I I never get this right. My co-host Robert.
Oh,
Robert,
yep.
glad to have you back.
Glad
Uh,
to be back.
okay, so yeah, without any ado, let's go to our guest. I was on a live stream. He was in the side chat, and he said, "Hey, I want to come on one of your shows." So I said, "Okay." Um, we did figure out that he was a little bit younger than I expected, which should be a compliment because he comes across as a little bit more mature than his age is actually the case. So we did get consent for people who are worried from his mother, which is great. So I want to welcome to Jonathan Guzman. Jonathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Great. So, um, as I said, I was in a live chat, and I don't even remember which show it was. Do you know?
I believe it was on Modern Day Debate, one of the debates on Modern Day Debate.
Could be.
I think it was RJ Downard versus Standing for Truth, something like that.
I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. So, well, my first question. What made you say, "Hey, I want to come on your show"?
Well, actually, I'm not sure if I actually asked to be on the show. Not to criticize the story, but yeah, I didn't actually hear of your channel until I emailed you and I said, hey, you said I could come on the show, and you said, well, and you gave me the channel link, and I checked it out. I read the what is it about the about page of your channel.
I
Actually,
checked
what
it
is
out.
that?
I read the.
There we go. So I read the about page of your channel, and it seemed legit. And a couple of other atheist YouTubers have had me on. The Raging Atheist, Surus the Skeptic hasn't had me on, but he has talked about me. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, so if I recall correctly, is I was talking to someone else and telling them that we had a show and put in the link, and then you said, "Hey, I might be interested." I think that's how it went. I'm not entirely sure anymore, but
Yeah,
doesn't
I'm
matter.
not too sure either.
Yeah, doesn't matter either way. You sent me an email, and uh,
You're
and
here.
and you're here. So um, the one question we always start off with is, can you tell us in a brief way? So, what do you believe, and more important, why do you believe it?
All right, sure. So I'm a Christian. I'm an independent fundamental Baptist. I take the Bible as it is literally stated. Of course, there are certain passages in the Bible which are poetic. Sorry, flat earthers. I am a young Earth creationist. I grew up loving dinosaurs and loving reading books about dinosaurs. I even wrote a few books myself, just little booklets. Read it to my classroom one time in kindergarten. And so, yeah, I always loved science. And then when I always knew, like, because we went to church a lot, like to this liberal Christian church, like sort of a mega church, and the younger kids would go off to what's called like junior church or kids church, whatever it's called. And they would teach like basic Bible stories. And one day they taught about the creation, and I'm like, wait a minute, this contradicts everything that I've been reading. And so for a long time, whenever somebody at church asked me how old is the Earth, I would say somewhere around 6,000. But whenever someone from school or someone something else like that, I would say it's the dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, so the Earth must be older than millions of years. And I also believe that dinosaurs evolved into birds for a long time. Um, So yeah, I do believe the Bible literally. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I reject any Pentecostal modalist doctrine. I reject um, the Catholics' doctrine of like. I'm actually working on a documentary right now on the Catholic Church. If anyone wants to check it out, they can go to my channel, where I interview several pastors and priests on the topic of Catholicism. So yeah, I just believe the Bible. That's pretty much it.
All right, I got a couple of questions for you right off the bat. That was a great introduction. And just in case people see me looking over my computer screen, it's probably just my computer, but it's super slow and super blurry. So I'm going to look over so I can remain focused. I hear a lot from Christians about how much they love science. But if you love science, how are you going kind of against what science teaches? Because I've watched some of your videos, I've heard some of the things you've had to say about evolution. If you love science, why are you going against what science preaches?
Not that it matters, but what videos exactly did you watch? I'm interested.
I heard you say things about evolution, and people, I guess, who believe in evolution, you use some derogatory terms. That is the established science. Evolution is actually one of the pillars of modern biology. And I hear Christians say all the time how much they love science, yet they look past science and they contradict science. So if you love science, are you putting evolution in the trash bin, or do you accept it as a scientific fact?
I'm absolutely not accepting evolution because it goes against all genetics, against all fossil evidence. They like to say we have intermediate fossils, which is sort of a play on words because intermediate fossils isn't what we think of intermediate fossils. Intermediate just means like an animal that looks like it's turning into another animal no matter when it came from. So a famous intermediate fossil is Archaeopteryx, and Archaeopteryx was actually found in the Jurassic period, in the Jurassic rock. So, but then they say that that Archaeopteryx, a branch of Archaeopteryx, later evolved into into avian dinosaurs, which now we call birds. However, they ignore the fact that those smaller theropods that are supposed to be directly linked to the birds. They actually lived in the Cretaceous and not the Jurassic. And Archaeopteryx is even more bird-like than any other, dromaeosaurid in the Cretaceous. For example, I believe that. Hold on. I think Archaeopteryx had a wishbone. I'm pretty sure. But at post Jurassic, you go into the Cretaceous. I'm pretty sure no dromaeosaurid had a wishbone. I'm not completely sure about this. Don't quote me on that. There's a lot of more fossil evidence that goes against evolution. For example, we have humans and dinosaurs coexisting one with another. We have I don't use the Paluxy River tracks. I don't think they're genuine, so I'm not going to use that. But in South Carolina, there are the Ashley phosphate beds, and in the Ashley phosphate beds, they these are like paleontologists from like the 19th century. So shortly after Darwin's book came out, they went to the Ashley phosphate beds, which is known for having Cretaceous marine animals, which is interesting because why would Cretaceous marine animals be with human remains? They found a human femur in the Ashley phosphate beds of South Carolina. They also found arrowheads from humans. They found those things, and people will ask, well, what does that have to do with evolution? But they don't realize that the fall of the dinosaurs in evolution theory, I'm not saying I believe this, but the fall of the dinosaurs is what led to the rise of man. Because in evolution theory, you have the extinction of the dinosaurs, and then you have then those smaller mammals. They dominate after being in the background for 300 million, not 300, but 200 million years, and they later rise up, and they create huge animals like mastodons, woolly mammoths, and they have more big cats in North America than they do now. I mean, the only big cat I believe in North America is the cougar. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the only big cat in North America. But if you look at the fossils, you see that there were multiple big cats in North America. And so you see that it extremely damages the evolution theory if you're going to say, well, that phosphate bed, it only means that man is older than we thought.
So I have to ask, where are you getting your information from? How many evolutionary biologists have you sat down and had this conversation with?
Well, to be fair, Robert, I've been listening, and as you know, I work a lot with Jackson Wheat.
Yes.
I'm in touch with RJ Downard. I think most of what he said so far is pretty accurate. The exception being the human bone that was found in Cretaceous in the Cretaceous layer. I know of a few instances. I know of one where it was just a later burial in that particular area. But either way, the bone wasn't fossilized, or it was mistaken for a human bone. So I'm not aware of any human remains that were found in the same layer as or in a Cretaceous layer, because I don't think that ever happened. The rest of what you said, I'm really astonished, because I think you're better informed than let's say Matt Powell, Kent Hovind. I don't think they know any of this. So kudos for you for at least digging into this so far.
Thanks so much.
Cool.
So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay.
Oh, that won't work.
Won't work. Okay.
No. I should have told you before. So the thing we're using StreamYards, but I'm running a script on StreamYards that splits up the pages, and that particular script doesn't allow me to let people share screen. We're still working on that. Maybe in the future. But so for now, we can only display guests, and
all right.
That's done. So let's say if you drop off, you will come back in the exact same position, so I don't have to reset my whole streaming software again. But can you sum up what you wanted to show?
Sure. Yeah. I'm actually looking for it right now, because I had it in like a presentation. Okay, I found it. So this comes from a book called The Phosphate Beds of South Carolina, the Great Carolina Marl Bed. You can find this document for free online at archive.org. I could post a link in the comments once this is done processing.
Well,
and then page
you can if you want you can put a link in the private chat, and I'll post it on the side chat for you.
Okay, there you go. All right, so on page 62, if anyone wants to read with me, it says human bones discovered. Now this is in the Ashley phosphate beds, which is famous for having mosasaur fossils. And so this is my source, which says, not very long after the finding of the above-named relics of human workmanship, and while engaged in our visual visits to the Ashley bed, a bone was found projecting from the bluff, immediately in contact with the surface of the stony stratum, the phosphate rocks. We pulled it out, and behold, a human bone. Without hesitation, it was condemned as an accidental occupant of quarters to which it had no right geologically. And so we threw it into the river. Alas, we had lived to regret our temerity and rashness. A year after, a lower jawbone with teeth was taken from the same bed, and we now have it in the cabinet and then it has like a footnote. Subsequent events and discoveries show conclusively that the first discovered human bones was in place, and that the beds of the post-Pliocene, not only on the actually, but in France, Switzerland, and other European countries, contain human bones associated with the remains of extinct animals and relics of human workmanship, proving most conclusively that the Carolina specimens were found, quote, in place. And the European discoveries were made in 1854 and ours in 1844. So that was my source. I believe everyone has that now. So yeah, that they even state that they have also found human remains in the same geologic strata in France and Switzerland, which is in Europe. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think I told you I'm in Europe, and so if any of that were true, I'm pretty sure I would be aware of it. I just looked. It's a book that was written in the 1800s. Let me pull it out because I pulled up the page. Let me go back real quick. It's written by Francis Holmes, who lived from 1815 to 1882. So I wouldn't dispute that this source is accurate. What I would dispute is that it's correct. So I don't have the rebuttal at hand because it's not entirely my field. I'll be more than happy to pass it on to someone who does research in this field and see whether or not that particular find was later classified as something else, or a mistake, or anomaly that could be otherwise explained. But as far as I know, currently we do not have any confirmed finds where we find human bones along with human fossils along with dinosaur fossils. Because I'm pretty sure you're aware that we have several dating methods that we can use,
Yes.
and that if a fossil is checked with a dating method, they don't use just one method. They use several methods, and most likely be done by several laboratories. And the fun part is that the dates will always be pretty much the same, and that's how we can confirm that the dates are correct. So
Yeah, but I'm not sure if you exactly know, not to attack you personally, but I don't think
no.
you actually know how they date fossils. They don't actually date them. To my knowledge, I don't think they usually date them using radiometric dating. It's very expensive to do, and they can't be doing it with every single fossil. So they look at a geologic map. Let's take the example of Sioux, the Tyrannosaurus Rex found in 1990 or 1993. So let's take Sioux, and Sioux was found on the what's his name, on some ranch owned by a some guy, and he had allowed some paleontologists, Peter Larson among them. I've had the privilege to speak to Pete, and I have an interview with him on my channel. They were able to find Tyrannosaurus and other Cretaceous dinosaurs there, not because they knew, not because they dated the fossils, but because they said, all right, so here's the geologic map. This is the area which we should find Cretaceous dinosaurs, specifically Tyrannosaurus Rex and other Tyrannosaurids, and we should find them in places like South Dakota or Montana or Wyoming. I believe they found a leg bone in Texas, and they're not entirely % sure what it is. They thought it was a Carcharodontosaurus. However, they are seeing and they are checking whether or not it is Tyrannosaurus Rex. I think that is still going on right now. But as far as we know, that Tyrannosaurus Rex probably dominated the northern, midwestern to the western United States, and they know that because of the geologic map. So they don't actually date the fossils themselves using radiometric dating. They date the rocks there using radiometric dating. Then they draw a map and they say, well, these are the same rocks. These are the same rocks with the same density and the same et cetera, with material and things like that. Therefore, this is the same time period. So, yeah, they don't actually date the fossils using radiometric dating. As far to my knowledge, I don't think so.
I'm not entirely sure if that is correct, but so
That's what
let me
Pete
let me let me let me let me track it a little back because Robert nor I are qualified to talk about this topic. We've got a fair knowledge of things, but we're not specialists. If you want, I could set you up with someone who is qualified to talk about the topic, and we could do an entire show just about that. What I'm more interested in is, as we said in the start at the start. So, what do you believe and why? And so you already told us what you believe. The most important question in this would be why do you believe it? So could we backtrack a little and take it from there, because that to me would be the most interesting part. So you say you take the Bible literally, so but what is your reason for believing that the Bible is actually true?
Well, there's a ton of evidence to prove that First of all, there's a ton of evidence to prove that Jesus Christ resurrected. So if you're looking at it from a logical perspective, you can take that evidence, and if you're fair with the evidence, and if you're logical with the evidence, it should lead you to to believe that Jesus resurrected. Um, and I don't want to talk about that too much. I don't study too much in that field. Um, so I grew up Christian, like I said. So I grew up believing the Bible, and the more I study the Bible, and the more I read it, the more I find out that it's true. It becomes more true every single day. Um,
Can you give an example of
sure,
some of the evidence that you found that you say confirms what the Bible says?
sure. Well, the Bible says in the book of Revelation, I believe it's in chapter 12, that the Antichrist will put up a one world government and a new not it doesn't say the new world order, but that is a phrase that is used to basically describe a one world government, a one world religion, and a one world financial system. And so we do see that coming to pass, especially in this whole COVID-19 thing. Um, the Bible also does say that there will come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lusts and saying, "Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation." That has come true. We also see some fulfilled prophecies in the Bible. There is evidence that Sodom and Gomorrah was burnt to a crisp. There is evidence that the city of Tyre was washed out with water, and the place was licked clean from the water.
Which is sorry that I interrupt. That's
Sure.
one of my favorites that never came true, because Tyre still exists in the very same spot, whereas the Bible says Tyre will be destroyed and will never rise again.
I'm not
It
sure that.
Yes, it is. You can go check it. So the ruins from biblical times are still there, and there is still a city in the exact same spot and has been throughout time. So there's pretty much not been a time where there was no Tyre. It was destroyed at some point. I fully agree with you on that. but it was immediately rebuilt, and people never left the area. So that would be one that never came true. So, and the other ones, signs of the end times. I mean, if you look through history, people have found several things that were happening at the time of the plague, for instance. That was a sign of the end times, and then the world recovered and carried on for hundreds of years after that. I'm pretty sure the same will be the case with COVID right now.
Yeah, I think that is a misconception that a lot of people have when I bring up that topic. They think that I'm saying like this is the end of the world. This is it. Jesus is coming back, which is nothing what I'm saying. I'm saying that these are the signs of the end times. We are near the end. Whether or not it's a year from now, 10 years from now, I mean, for
Don't you find that to be somewhat of just a random claim? Because I could say the exact same thing right now, and that I'm a lot closer to death at 48 than I was at 18. Christians have been saying that we're in the end times since the beginning times. So, I mean, it just seems like kind of a random claim. Yeah, I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Well, when people try to set a date for like the rapture or the end times, I think they're being completely ridiculous when they come up with dates.
So, what's the difference between what you said and what everyone else has said? That you think it sounds as if, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we're kind of in the end times. Again, I could say the exact same thing about myself. I will die. I will eventually die. And if I say it every day from now until the day I die, I'm kind of correct. Because one day I will stop converting oxygen into carbon dioxide. If you guys just continue to say it's the end times, and you guys have been saying it for thousands of years, kind of what's the difference between your claim and the person who said it was going to happen July 19th, 1914?
Well, see, I don't think we're in the book of Revelation just yet. Like, I think I see where you're coming from with your analogy there, and I do agree with you partially. I don't. So this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that we are closer to the end than we ever have been.
Right. Just like I'm closer to dying today as I was yesterday.
Right. And so, but here's the thing, though. I'm not putting a date on it. Like, it could come.
And you're right, and neither am I. I can't tell you if tonight I go to bed, I don't wake up, or I'm like my aunt and I live until 88,
Right.
which is very long for my family. But I think we're kind of on the same page, and I respect the fact that you can hear or listen to where I'm coming from. But Christians have been talking about the end days since the start days. And yeah, some people have put exact days, times, years, minutes, seconds. So I guess I'm really trying to figure out what makes your comment any more valid than the person who said, again, it was going to happen in 1914.
Like I said, I'm not putting a date on it, and I don't think anyone should. I don't think anyone should say like it's gonna like this is like I believe it was the Mormons that did put a date on it, like I think
they put several dates on it actually. Lots of sects of beliefs and parts of Christianity have put exact dates on it.
Right,
and again, I'm going to say it one more time. You to me, you sound no different, except you're the one not giving February the 13th. 2074. Thank you for not putting a date on it.
Right.
But you have literally said what I just said about myself. Robert Reed will one day die. And if I say that every day from now until the day I die, I'm absolutely right. Today, I'm a lot closer to dying than I was just yesterday. So you say we're not in the book of Revelations. I guess it's how do you know? And actually, kind of to build on top of that, how do you know other holy books don't have it right?
All right, so that's sort of 2 or 3 questions there.
Yeah. Just pick whichever one, and we can build on that.
I'm gonna keep on going from the first point.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Bible does give us some descriptions of what the end times will be like.
Right.
For the past 2,000 years, we've been seeing those signs. Now we've seen Now, if there were people in the 15th century who were Christians and they believed in, that Jesus is coming back and they believed in the signs of the end times, they probably looked at the Catholic Church martyring all these Christians, and they're saying like, oh, it's almost the end because we're in the sixth seal where the Christians are being martyred. And it's like, well, it's for those guys, sure, it might look like that. But looking back, now we see, well, not really, because we're going to see a martyrdom of Christians worldwide, not just in Italy or just in Rome. So we're going to see some specific signs that the Bible does give that are going to be global. That's the difference from when
That's
they
the
were
difference. Okay, and so what if the Bhagavad Gita says the exact same thing? How do I, the outsider, tell who is telling me the truth?
If the Bhagavad Gita says the same thing, like about the end times,
About anything.
Bible
Because
does?
right now you're 100% leaning on the Bible being true, but there are thousands of other religions. There's thousands of other just Christian portions of the same religion, but you are truly hanging your hat on, well, the Bible said this, the Bible said that, which is great. I totally understand, because a little bit about myself, and again, I apologize for looking over the screen, but right now there's a huge delay, and so it kind of messed me up. I was a hardcore Christian, just like you. And when I was 14, I probably sounded just like you. And so I'm asking, again, if the other religions say X, Y, and Z, and they hang their hat 100% on their holy book, how do you know that you got it right?
If you look at it from a logical perspective, I mean,
And they will bring up logic as well. I mean, the Hindus believe that angels are blue. Do you believe that angels are blue?
I don't really think it matters, and I'm not sure.
Actually, I think it kind of does, because they're hanging their hat on the fact that they're right, and they've got a book to say so. One of their gods has an elephant's head. Does your God have an elephant's head?
No.
Okay, so if I'm sitting between you and the Hindu, and I'm smack dab in the middle, and you're telling me about the sixth seal and Revelations and going back to Genesis, and apparently a snake which has no vocal cords actually spoke.
I don't say it's a snake.
Okay, and I can find Christians who will tell me that it was an actual snake. So again, it's how do I know, or how do you know, more importantly, that you've nailed it?
Well, if you look at the ridiculous claims, like I've already said earlier, like the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ is extremely strong. Also, if you look at some of the ridiculous claims from other quote unquote holy books, like if you look at like the Quran, it states some pretty ridiculous things, like the sun sets in a mucky swamp someplace in the Middle East. It's ridiculous what it's saying, and we can literally rebuke that. And the Bible doesn't make such claim. The Bible doesn't make any claim that is, unless it's a supernatural event. So there is no claim in the Bible that is not able to be proven by science.
And let me stop you right there. So when you say ridiculous claims, just last week I had a friend of mine talk about Scientology, and how ridiculous it sounds. The only reason why Christianity doesn't sound ridiculous to you is because it's what you're used to. Do you actually think a woman who's never had sex had a baby?
All right, I'm assuming you're talking about Mary.
Yes, exactly. Do you actually think that a virgin got pregnant?
Like I said, there are things in the Bible that are supernatural.
Right. No, okay. So I'll take that as a yes. That is an absolutely, positively ridiculous claim, because as we know through science, sperm has to meet egg one way or another. And back in Mary's time, where people were living 30, 40 years and then they expire, they didn't have the science that we have today. So the truth of the matter is, no, a virgin couldn't get pregnant. So when you call other religious claims ridiculous, do you see what I'm saying about yours? This is what you have been taught. Blue angels to the Hindus is just as valid as a virgin getting pregnant. So how do I, or again, more importantly, without going back to the Bible, how do you know you've got it right?
But hold on, I just want to respond to what you just said
By
there,
all means, please do.
because I think you're confusing a little bit with definitive claim, like this is what normally happens, and something supernatural. In the Bible, there are a lot of things that are supernatural, like God supernaturally. I don't know how, I don't know why. Well, I know why, but I don't know how. By what means he stopped the sun from its setting. That's one time, but that's not, the Bible doesn't say that normally happens. See, if you look at the Quran's claim, that's when they say that the sun sets in murky water. That's what they're saying happens on a daily basis. They're not saying that, the Bible isn't saying that virgins, conceive just regularly. It was a supernatural event.
But go ahead. Then
And so we have a lot of supernatural events, and I think that's what atheists and a lot of agnostics have a problem with, the supernatural. And if the supernatural just means something that's outside of nature. And
right.
So,
And so if a virgin gets pregnant within our realm, which apparently is the only realm that we kind of know of, then it's no longer supernatural, right? It's natural. If it happens in the natural world, it's natural. So if a virgin can get pregnant, we should be able to trace that. But we have not, other than a book that says that donkeys and snakes talk, that a dead man came back to life after being tortured and murdered. I mean, do you actually believe that a dead man came back to life?
I believe that many dead people came back to life.
Okay, that would be a natural event. Would you agree with that statement?
No, that would have been a supernatural event.
But a supernatural event that happened in the natural world.
Like if you're taking the Valley of Dry Bones, which I believe was performed by I always forget whether or not it was Ezekiel. I think it was Ezekiel. If you take the Valley of Dry Bones, that was a supernatural event. Ezekiel was talking to God, and he said, the woman that made the cakes for Ezekiel as well, I believe it was, her son died, and then Ezekiel said, all right, get out of the house. I'm gonna, bring him back to life. God was with him at that moment. If you look at post Jesus' resurrection, you see that Jesus was the one that these supernatural powers was the thing that allowed those saints, not saints, but allowed those men who had been dead for probably many years and to rise again. So it's a supernatural event, and it's used to prove a point, and it's always used to prove a point. I don't think you can explain every single plague in Egypt using naturalistic or scientific processes. It had to be supernatural, and it's always used to point and to bring a point.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in real quick, because there's one that I think is not really compelling. So when Jesus rose from the dead, apparently a lot of others did as well. It says that a lot of graves burst open, and those people roamed the streets. The only account we have of that is in the Bible. There's no historian who mentions that. No one apparently noticed, and literally the only account we have of that is in the Bible. So how would you explain that? How would you explain that people who were alive at the time apparently didn't notice that a lot of people rose from the dead and were roaming the streets again?
Yeah, like I said before, I don't study too much about the resurrection and things like that. I have a friend though who does. You could talk to him. Maybe he would want to come on the show and talk to you about that. But I can't say that there aren't any contemporary sources that also say that, because I just haven't read them. I know Josephus writes a little bit about the resurrection, and he also writes about the 70 AD, the temple being destroyed, and all that other stuff. So You know,
Actually, what he writes about is what people are telling, what Christians are claiming at the time. So he doesn't make any comments on on whether or not that actually happened. He just
but
writes down the claims that Christians at that time make, and that goes for pretty much all of the secular accounts that Christians usually refer to. What I do
have a
what I do
question for
find
him.
what I do find interesting is that apparently, and I'd say that's a good thing. So don't get me wrong, but apparently you study more about evolution and maybe try and find errors in that
well,
than you do actually trying to see whether or not the claims that are made in the Bible are right. Is that a safe thing to say?
not exactly. I mean, like if I'm trying to like study a little bit of a bit of geology in order to get into paleontology. So yeah, I hope on to get into paleontology one day. Um, so I mean, I do read the Bible. I try to read it every day. For the past couple days, it's been a little bit hard, but I've been getting a little bit of Bible reading in. Um, so no, I don't think it would be quite accurate to say that the claims in the that I'm well, unless you're talking like about the resurrection and those rising from the dead sort of things, then yeah, I think that would be a valid statement. But I'm not trying to like talk a lot about evolution. I'm not into like biology and genetics and stuff like that. But I'm trying to get into like geology and paleontology. That's sort of the realm that I stay in.
Well,
I leave others like my friend. I won't name him right now, but he talks a lot about the resurrection, and I'll leave like standing for truth to deal with the genetics part. You know, I'll talk about geology.
I will say this. One, I actually hope you do get into any of the ologies, biology, paleontology. I think that would be good for you. I mean, like you told us how old you were before we got on air. I think you should expand your horizons. But you had mentioned about parts of the Bible that are poetry, and I mean, have you actually read the Quran from front to back?
No, I tried one time. I couldn't do it.
Okay, then yeah, no, and hey, you know what? I haven't read it either, but you said with almost a definitive tone of voice that a claim in the Quran was ridiculous. The sun setting into muddy waters. How do you know that that wasn't a poetic reference? Just like you can dismiss some of the what most Christians will say, like the Old Testament, is just like a poetic reference. It's a metaphor. It's an analogy. Without having read the actual Quran, how do you know that's not a poetic reference? Just like, I think you said the snake wasn't an actual snake, where I can find Christians who will tell me it was an actual snake like the ones I've seen in my backyard. So how do you tell which one is a poetic reference from the Quran versus what you claim is? How do you know it's a ridiculous claim?
Yeah, that's I think you do make a point, and I'm gonna admit that I haven't read that in the context of that, so I'm not sure if it's like a
Okay.
language or whatever, but that'd be interesting to study out. I mean,
So
I'll
how about this? Let me ask you some questions because again, I I actually read the Bible almost on a daily basis myself. Um, let's go with I'm going to try and find something as non-controversial as possible. How about this? Because I've heard Christians go both ways on this.
Mhm.
6-day creation. Is that a metaphor or is that real?
I strongly believe that it's real. That it's
Okay, and that's great, That's great. Let me build on that just a little bit.
Mhm.
When the Christians who have told me, and more than one have told me, that the 6-day creation account is only a metaphor, it's an analogy. You tell me it's real. How do I know which one of you is telling me the truth?
Well, first of all, I believe most old Hebraic scholars agree that, not necessarily agree that it
Actually,
was a six-day creation, but they do agree that it is speaking with not with poetic language. So if you look actually in the actual manuscripts, it's very different from the Middle Eastern poetry at the time, which was written in long epic. I believe they were written in long epics,
okay.
but it's
Great.
different.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Also, if you're going to think that, because I run into a bit of people that think like the day age theory or the gap theory, that doesn't really work when you like go with chronologically. You have to like bend and twist the Bible in order to do that. Also, if you're going to say it's a metaphor or an analogy, I have no idea how that would be an analogy or a metaphor or what that would be.
Got it. Do you think that Adam and Eve were real people?
Yes.
Okay. I have legit been on a channel getting into an argument. One Christian says analogy. This Christian says 100% real. It really seems as if the people on your side can't hammer out what is and is not an analogy, what is and is not truth. And no insult to you, man, because let me tell you something. You are carrying yourself magnificently. Yeah, I think you are a good young man. You're going to be okay. You do you. You get the thumbs up from me.
I fully
But
agree
again,
with that.
yeah. If I'm listening to you versus those two other Christians, how do I say this again, how do I know who's telling me the truth?
I don't speak a lot about evidence, so I'm not going to get into genetics. Excuse me. I don't speak a lot about genetics.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into that too much. But the scientists have found that mitochondrial E and Y chromosome Adam are real people. There's some controversy among the scientific community or whether or not it was a population.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure. But I'm not going to say. Hold on. Before you ask the question, I'm probably not going to be able to answer it if you're going to ask about genetics.
No. I'm not. I'm not.
I won't even ask about genetics.
I
but go
wasn't.
ahead,
I
Peter.
wasn't going to ask about genetics. Can you just tell me what is mitochondrial Eve?
Well, if the mitochondria is the gene, is that part of DNA and gene that is transferred from mother to her kids, and is only transferred from the mother. Almost, I think all cases is
Yes,
transferred.
correct.
So.
But can you what?
First, basically.
Hold on. You're correct about that.
Mhm.
But can you tell me who mitochondrial Eve was?
I'm going. All right, so I'm going to tell you what the scientific community says about it, and I'm going to say what I believe about it, okay?
Okay.
If you take that mitochondria all the way back, you get to either a population or just a single person of women that share our same mitochondria. Now, mitochondrial Eve, I'm going to say what the scientific community thinks about it. Most of the scientists think that it's a population of around 1,000 women.
No. So see, and that's the point where I was getting to, and that's a point that is pretty much almost left out by Christian apologists and creation science websites. Mitochondrial Eve is our most recent female ancestor. The part most recent is the important part. Because if she's the most recent, it means that there are older ones. Mitochondrial Eve also is, last I checked, about 10,000 years older than young Earth creationists would say the Earth is. Mitochondrial Eve, I think, dates back to a little over 15,000 years ago. So that would already surpass the 6,000 year that the Earth would have been here. and it implies that there are older ones. And if you go and check the science on this, there are actually I think there's I saw at least 2 or 3 older ones as a common ancestor.
Yeah,
And the same thing goes for Y chromosomal Adam, and Y chromosomal Adam is even older, a lot older than mitochondrial Eve. So not only didn't they live at the same time, they live thousands of years before, according to the Bible, the earth was even created. So I'm always stunned when people bring that up as some sort of evidence for the Bible and as some sort of evidence for, let's say, Adam and Eve, because it clearly doesn't fit the story.
yeah, like I said, I don't study genetics as much as Standing for Truth does. So if you want to have a conversation with Standing for Truth or where I'm at on that, I'm sure.
Well,
They,
I'm not sure if he still is. He was in the side chat, and he has sent me an email. I've invited Standing for Truth, I think, more than a year ago. He always told me that he would get back to me and come on the show, and then never did. So at the moment, I'm talking to a few other guests, and he is still on the list of people that I'm going to invite on the channel. But when we actually had time to have him on, he never responded, and now I'm dealing with a few guests that I'm still hammering out a time and date with, who came first, and I'm a firm believer in who comes first will get the first opportunity. So I'll get to him eventually, and I'm a little sad that he didn't respond earlier. We've had several times where I invited him and he said, "Well, I'll send you an email," and he never did. So I don't know why. We're not that important, so I couldn't blame him if he goes on bigger channels. That's fine.
well,
But so the thing is, when you say Adam and Eve were real people, pretty much everything in science, in current science, would disagree with that, because first of all, there's no way that we could have come from 2 people and it wouldn't show up in our DNA, because there would be a clear bottleneck, and there isn't. According to our DNA, our population never dipped below 10,000. So, and that I'm like you, I'm not really qualified to talk on this point, but it is something that I do know. So, and that would negate the whole Adam and Eve story already.
right, yeah. Well, I can't say that I can't like give a rebuttal to that, like I said. But somebody's like is being like really weird in chat. He said, "Well, where is it?" He said, then period study." See, here's the thing. I don't want to be like I don't want to try to be like an expert on everything, and I don't think that that's like the place or for anybody like to just study every single thing imaginable, like meteorology or biology, and then geology, and then paleontology, and then paleoanthropology. It's just something that is sort of on the back burner. I can't talk about it as much as I
But
can.
I said earlier, and pardon the interruption, I think you actually should. I mean, you're talking about evolutionary biology and all these other ologies. Again, take it from a guy who's been around the track a couple more times than you have.
Yeah.
I think it would really do you some good to sit down and talk to people who are the polarized opposites of you.
And I do.
And that's great. And you know what? You should absolutely continue to do that. And again, I'm not trying to dog you or anything, but I heard one of your tapes, and you made a couple disparaging comments about people who accept evolution and evolutionary biology. I think those are the exact same people that you need to sit down and talk with, because again, where evolution and evolutionary biology and where science is taking us is all the way over there. Where religion has taken us and a belief in a young earth and everything else, has it taken us anywhere? It has just stalemated right here. We are discovering cures for diseases and treatments based on the fact that evolution is true. We still have claims that people with amputated limbs are growing things back through prayer, but yet we don't have any actual evidence for that. And so I really do think, my man, it would do you some. Hold on. I think it would do you some real good to talk to actual evolutionary biologists.
And just for the record, so Guzman, would you be up for? And I say Guzman I instead of Jonathan because I've heard a lot of people call you Guzman instead of. That's another whole rabbit hole. So Jonathan, would you be up for doing a show with an evolutionary biologist and talk about this stuff where you can just ask questions and have things explained to you, and also get the sources provided so you can check whether or not that person is actually telling you the truth? Would you be interested in a conversation like that?
I'd be more than interested in having a discussion, like just not bringing my side in, like not.
No,
not having like a debate sort of thing.
No,
not even a debate.
I agree with that, and this is why our channel is a little bit different from let's say modern day debate or back in the day the non sequitur show. This isn't a contest. This isn't about who's right and who's wrong. This isn't about winning. What we're about is having a conversation. Maybe you can come up with a few points that make us think, and we hope that we can come up with a few points that will make you think and go and see whether or not the claims that we've just made are actually true. So, and I think that is a lot more productive than getting into a debate or a contest whether or not what you're saying is actually true, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether or not one of us has the feeling I won this, because that's arbitrary. It isn't about winning. It is about trying to figure out what is real and what isn't. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. When I do like my debates, I just did a debate yesterday on whether or not the New Testament condemns or condones the death penalty. Yeah, and so I'm not like that great of a debater. I'll admit I'm not a super great debater. Like I'll have a conversation and I'll bring up points which will make my opponent think. But if I get thrown into like a debate discussion which is formatted like 10-minute openings, 10-minute rebuttals, 2-minute intervals, and then Q&A, I usually do okay in the Q&A. But I like having discussions because I can't like in debates. It's sort of like it's demanding you come up with the thing with your argument right on the spot, or else we're going to change to the different topic, because I can't I'm still trying to map everything down, like all my evidences, so I don't have everything stored in my head, and it's sort of hard bringing that stuff out. And I have arguments. I think I have legit arguments, but I just can't bring them out on the spot without preparing them first. So that's why I prefer discussions over debates, and that's why I chose to come on here over the non sequitur show.
Man, so I don't have any kids myself. So at the age that you said that you were, I think that puts me I don't know, 8th or ninth grade, I think. But you've used words and terminologies that at my age, when I was your age, my man, I was still fighting uncontrollable erections and picking my nose. So you have access to internet and the information that my generation didn't even know was possible. So for that, I compliment you. But on the same token, I'm going to ask you, with all this available information, how do you still hold on to beliefs that I would call archaic, right? I mean, you could look up, do snakes have vocal cords? You can look up, can virgins get pregnant? And Siri can give you that answer, bam, 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 like that. So I'm kind of curious on how it is you can have access to a wealth of information and still hold on to beliefs that aren't really up to date. I mean,
there's a difference between supernatural and things that are able to be
right. And I asked you this: if something happens in the natural world, does that not qualify it as natural?
Was the Big Bang natural?
Yes.
I would assume that answer is yes.
Yes.
We've got scientific evidence to support Big Bang theory, but we don't have evidence to prove that a teenager who's never had sex got pregnant. We don't have scientific backing for that. I can ask Siri right now, and she even turned on, can that happen? And even Siri will tell me something that you have not. So I'm kind of curious on how you can have a wealth of information, more information that we had encyclopedias when I was your age, which killed a lot of curiosity right there. All you have to do is talk to a box of silicone. So it's like, how do you still hold on to beliefs that by any other definition would be deemed archaic?
Well, I was still making my point before you interrupted. But
by all means, please make your point.
Do you believe that the origin of life was natural processes?
For me, it's not about a belief; it's about accepting what science has proven to be real.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
So, I'm going off of what we know, right? So we know that under conditions that we replicated, because scientists aren't exactly sure what the conditions were at the time that life arose on Earth. What we do know is that some of the things that would have been present in reconstructed conditions, we've come to learn that RNA will actually create itself without any outside influence. We also know that RNA is what creates DNA. There's currently a rising consensus that there was an RNA first world. We still have organisms that are purely RNA based. So that would seem plausible that at some point all life on Earth was RNA based, and then RNA started creating DNA, and that's where we got the first DNA based life forms. So since we know, and we have replicated that in a lab, that RNA can actually create itself, it doesn't confirm that that is what actually happened. We currently have 18 different hypotheses on abiogenesis, which all could be true at the same time. So it's not even a given thing that life arose in one particular manner. It could have arisen in as much as 18 different ways. The fact is that we at least have clear evidence that RNA can spontaneously form itself without any outside influence. And from RNA we can get to DNA. So it's not a big leap. We've also seen another thing, and that is if you have one-celled organisms, and this was discovered by accident, and they took green algae and left it in a lab uncontrolled, and when they came back, it appeared that they had switched from being one-celled organisms to a multi-celled organism, also without outside influence. So we know that can happen.
All right, hold on, real quickly. I'm gonna respond once I come back. I need to grab a charger from my computer real quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll be right.
No
Keep
problem.
going. Okay.
No problem. So, so I wanna address Standing for Truth, who's in the side chat, since we have to wait just a little bit.
Okay.
Standing, I've sent you multiple emails. You never responded. And you say, well, you took Jonathan on spur of the moment. Yes, I did, because Jonathan asked me, sent me an email. I wasn't the one who contacted him. He sent me an email. Responded pretty much within the hour every single time I answered one of his emails. If you can do the same, I'll be more than happy to have you on, because I really, while it might not seem that way, I really want to talk to you, because I've got several questions that I think other people haven't asked you yet. So shoot me an email. I'll make an exception. Shoot me an email. Tell me which days you're available, and we'll have you on. No problem. But if I have to constantly send you emails and get no replies, at some point I'm a little worn out. If you're not interested, and I'm honest. If I want to have you on, I'm honest, and I will put in the effort, which I did. So it's a little bit frustrating if you then don't get an answer from someone, and they keep you waiting for more than a year, and then come back and say, hey,
Wow.
I got time. While I've seen you on several shows on channels that have far less subscribers than ours has. So I wouldn't know why that happened. I'd be more than happy to hear an explanation. I'll be more than happy to skip the explanation. So if you want to come on, send me an email and we'll talk. No problem. So that's my little rant to...
I can't see the side chat. I don't know who this person is, but I'm curious.
Standing for Truth has been on Modern Day Debate several times already. He's been in a debate with, for what I know, at least RJ. Old Earth creation, young Earth creationist. Not entirely sure which denomination exactly. He's also been in a debate with Erica Gutsy Gibbon, and so the last debate I had some mixed feelings. He was talking over RJ a lot, I think, which is hard to do, because usually RJ is the one talking over you instead of the other way around. But
I'll look this person up. Now I'm curious.
Yeah, so Standing, shoot me an email. If you shoot me an email today, I'll make an exception, and we'll make it happen as soon as possible. So, Jonathan, you're back.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I've been looking at the clock. Maybe another 20 minutes, and then we'll call it a day. We agreed on not going past an hour and a half. I do have a question, because we've been talking back and forth about a lot of things. So I have a few questions. I have a few questions from the chat. Let me go to those first. Joan asked, what does Jonathan think about we've become better? Less people die of violent acts, percentage-wise. More conflicts between countries are solved and diplomatically than with a war. So I think that was back when we were talking about the end times, signs of the end times.
Oh, well, obviously the Bible says that marvel not, my brethren, if Satan be transformed into an angel of light. Sure, we might not have people like Stalin around anymore or Adolf Hitler, but the devil isn't gonna come at us with a pitchfork and a tail and say, "Worship me." He's gonna come as an angel of light. He's gonna come like a good guy. So yeah, a lot of people who we look up to as like the good guys who are helping society, like let's say Bill Gates. We're not gonna talk about that tonight though, but. He is doing damage, and he is doing harm. I am anti-vax. I don't intend on getting into that tonight. I still want to make my point about the biogenesis thing, but yeah. So no, Satan's ministers are being less obvious. They're being more satanic. Demonic is something different. It's like openly, openly saying, yeah, I'm a devil worshiper. But satanic is something that basically infiltrates and pretends that they're a good guy even though they're not.
Jonathan, where does the devil live?
The Bible says he's on the earth right now.
Where is he?
My door.
Where is he?
I don't know, but he's... it's sort of a ridiculous question.
No, it's actually not a ridiculous question. You made a claim that someone is alive, that they're doing something, that they're functional. It's not a ridiculous question. If I tell you that my father did X, Y, and Z, and you ask me, where's your father? I can tell you not just a city, I can give you his address. And so when you talk about someone who's basically alive, and I ask you, where are they? And you tell me that's a ridiculous question. It's not a ridiculous question. Where is the devil?
The Bible tells us that he's walking about.
That's great. And my dad is walking about, and I can tell you exactly where he is. So can you give me a roundabout where the devil is? What's that?
So let's say your dad is on a marathon. Can you tell me the exact coordinates to inches where he is on the planet?
Yeah, actually I can. In 2020, I can do that.
All right. Well, sure. Maybe through some 2020 technology like a wristband.
Okay, and I'm asking you in 2020, where is the devil? Because to me, this is no different. I'm not gonna lie. Hold on. I was a little bit scared when you talked about anti-vax. So I'm asking you in 2020, where is the devil? Because this to me is no different than saying the end times are coming. This is just like me saying I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And if I say it for another 40 years, you'll never guess what? I'm going to be right. So I'm asking you, you made the claim that someone was alive and functional. Where are they?
I can't say that he's literally a physical being walking about, so I can't actually tell you. It's sort of like saying like.
But you believe this person is real.
I didn't say he was a person.
A thing, an entity, whatever you want to call this.
Yeah, spiritual.
This spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
What do you mean?
Just that. You said he's spiritual. I'm asking for the definition of spiritual.
Something not physical.
Which is? I'm trying to get an actual answer. A definitive answer so I can hang my hat.
Like you'll probably disagree with this, but like the conscience isn't physical. I don't think we have a
better definition of consciousness than we do
where
of the devil.
Comes from. It comes from, I believe, the prefrontal cortex,
which is great, in which we can map the prefrontal cortex. I've seen pictures of an artist's depiction of Satan. He's handsome. He was blonde. He was muscular. He had six-pack abs. He had this enormous wingspan. Mm-hmm. Is that what you believe the devil is?
Well, the Bible not the Bible, but Satan can transform himself into an angel of light. An angel of light just means like a good minister, someone who looks like a good guy. So the devil doesn't actually have one like one facial identity or one identity ever.
I dig it. And I find this a little bit odd because when I mentioned blue angels from the Hindu faith, you kind of scoffed at that a little bit. But yet you've just described basically a shape changer, but yet you called other belief systems ridiculous. I mean, I remember shape changers from Star Wars Episode 2. Remember?
Because they worship those shape changers.
And it sounds like you believe in shape changer.
I mean, unless we have some more questions from the chat, I'd like to get back to that biogenesis thing.
I kind of think the devil is an important topic, my friend.
I do have one question, Jonathan. So
Sure.
You described what you think the devil is. I think that's fair enough. You did give a decent description. But one question: would you say that the devil is more powerful than God is?
Absolutely not.
So if that's the case, let's say if that's the case, how come that God hasn't stopped him? Because if he's obviously trying to spoil God's plan and winning people over, wouldn't it then be easy for a God to just stop this one particular guy? And because according to the Bible, and correct me if I'm wrong, the God of the Bible is all loving. He wants everyone to know him. He wants everyone to worship him, and yet he lets this guy throw a wrench in the wheels all of the time and leading people astray. Isn't that a little bit silly for a God who's more intelligent than we are? I mean, I can come up with a pretty good solution. Just take him out and we're done.
Okay, so this goes back to like the question, like the trilogy, the trilogy problem, right? God's omnipotent. There's evil in the world, and then God's all powerful, right? They say this is a problem because why doesn't God just stop Satan? But then we have. Oh, hey, get out, guys! Hold on. They're my sister. They're my.
That was cute.
Yeah, so things like that can happen.
Hey, siblings happen.
And
that's life.
And
Sorry about that.
There it is. Hey, man, you know what? One, don't you ever apologize for that. Two, if those are your sisters, man, you hug them around the neck every day. You kiss them on their cheek, and you tell them you love them. That you do that. You do that.
That was my little brother.
Yeah, your little brother. You hug your little brother around the neck every day. You tell your little brother every day he wakes up that you love him, and you treat him as such. Don't you ever apologize for your little brother being your little brother. That's what they do.
Yeah.
You're going to be all right.
He's a lot more important than this show is.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
You take care of your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so what was the point that we were talking about?
God taking out the devil.
Getting rid of the devil.
Oh, right. So why doesn't God just stop the devil? But God's all wise and God's all loving. So we have this supposed Trinity problem, but it's really it is equalized by those two final points. God has a will, and he wants to execute his will. And it's not to just kill the devil. He's going to do that. He's going to do that at some point. But here's the thing, though. Why does God need to stop evil? I mean, God doesn't want... See, here's the thing. We are evil by nature. So why doesn't God just take us out as well?
Wait. Okay, hold on. We're going to disagree on that premise. And I think I already know what your rebuttal is going to be. I don't think we are evil by nature.
Nope, nor do I.
I don't. And here's one of the reasons why I just don't agree with Christianity is it establishes a sense of low self-esteem. I just met you. We're having some disagreements, but I'm pretty sure you're a good kid. I really do. I saw the way you smiled when you talked about your sibling. That's not a smile of an evil person, man. And I bet you dollars to donuts. If you and I were in the same grocery store, I can't walk the grocery stores right now because I've got a pretty bad injury. if you saw me struggling to reach something on a top shelf, I bet you're a good enough young man to come up and say, "Sir, can I get that for you?" I don't think humans are as base and as evil as Christianity makes us out to be.
Nope.
I don't think that low of you. I don't.
I mean, we can just talk about the problem with you all day long, but I think we only have like 8 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy topic to me, my man, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
we can talk about that in the show if you want to have me on.
We do
Yeah, I
have.
would love to have you back on. I think you're tremendous, man. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, question. We have a Veronica Guzman in the side chat. Related?
Excuse me?
I said we have a Veronica Guzman in the side chat. Is she?
Oh no, we're not related. I know who she is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're not.
No, just I was just thinking. So I have one question. I think is important to ask because I'm really curious about that. Jen with one N. If you're not sub to Jen, go sub.
She's fantastic.
Yeah. So she asked, "What are your future plans? College, marriage? Are you equivocal? And what do you think of feminism?" So that's a lot. So let's
What's the last thing? What do I think of what?
of
Feminism.
feminism.
Oh, feminism.
So let's start with the one because I was really curious. What are your future plans? Any particular field you wanna study? You wanna?
Yeah, I do potentially want to get into paleontology.
That is great.
That's fantastic.
You know,
Fantastic.
I live nearby the University of Ann Arbor, and they have like one of the best paleontology fields in the whole United States. So I plan on going there, or maybe going somewhere, something like, I don't know. But yeah, I do plan on doing something in getting some credentials in geology or biology, not biology, but paleontology. At some point I will get married. I'm not sure when though.
Take your time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take your time and choose wisely, my man. Choose wisely.
Live life and then
Yes.
and then decide. So I'm all for that. But so let's say you're going to do that and let's say what you learn while studying paleontology starts to conflict more and more with what you currently believe about the Bible. Would that change your opinion?
Well, there are several actually young Earth creationist paleontologists. I've actually interviewed one, Dr. Marcus Ross. He's a great guy. Dr. Kurt Weiss is another one. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of him. He's excuse me, I always get this wrong. He's an invertebrate paleontologist studying animals without a backbone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he does, like, he went to Harvard for a PhD in invertebrate paleontology, studied under Stephen Jay Gould, and he came out a young Earth creationist. I don't know how he did it. I'm not sure if he was religious before that, but Richard Dawkins himself said that Kurt Weiss was an intelligent man, and that his whole career was, quote, ruined and destroyed by religion. And so there are a lot of young Earth creationist paleontologists and young Earth creationist geneticists and microscopists. Dr. John Sanford is a geneticist. Dr. Mark Armitage is another microscopist. I believe Dr. Kevin Anderson is a microscopist. So
I forgot his.
Hold on. Let me answer the question though.
Okay.
If I do end up finding something that seems to conflict with my religious beliefs, I'll just search it out. The Bible says to search to prove all things, and so I'm going to see and I'm going to study it. So far, I haven't found anything that conflicts. And I've been studying for a long time. I've been reading books since.
All right, so I'm gonna rag you just a little bit. You said I'm not gonna say your age, but you told us how old you are before we kicked off, and you said you've been studying for a long time. Look here, man. Okay. No. I'm breaking your balls.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm breaking your balls just a little bit.
Let me retract that. Actually.
Yeah, go ahead. I think you're a great kid, but.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say to you in terms of paleontology and, again, all the other ologies. I think you should do exactly that. You should study all the ologies, all the science, and you're not going to agree with me now. You're not going to agree with me tomorrow. You may not agree with me ever. But instead of saying the Bible teaches us blank, I think you should say Jonathan teaches me blank. And I think you should go into all the ologies with as blank of a slate as possible and allow yourself the latitude to ask all the questions you want. And if you get an answer that you're the least bit uncomfortable with, give yourself the latitude to investigate it all the way through. Again, contrary to popular belief, I don't have a check mark list over there. I'm not trying to convert you to anything. You do you. It just in the hour and a half that I've been talking to you, I say this for the 100th time. I think you're a tremendous young man. You study all the ologies you want. You allow yourself the latitude to ask all the questions you need to ask. You're X amount of years old. You've got a lot of growing up. Just to catch up to where I am, you've got a lot of groundwork. And to go further than I have gone, which you will, give yourself the latitude to soak in as much information as possible. Because who you are right now won't be who you are in 10 years. Trust me.
And can I add just a little thing to that? So we've had two people on that at least you know, Kent Hovind and Matt Powell. I think it's safe to say that between the three of you, you are by far the most honest and by far the most pleasant to talk to. So
hands down.
That's one thing that I wanted to say, and we're up to an hour and a half. So as I told you before, you get the opportunity to accept another show and then come up with your topic of choice. I will be more than happy to set up a show with you and an evolutionary biologist. If you wanted to do that, that won't be on our channel. Will be over on his channel. I'll be running the show, so you'll at least have someone there you already acquainted with, and I can vouch for him. His name is Jackson Wheat. If you want to,
I know Jackson. I haven't talked to him personally, but I knew you were gonna say Jackson for some reason.
Yeah, well, Jackson and I are good friends. Recently started producing his shows where he has guests on. So yeah. If you want to go on Jackson's channel and talk, ask any questions you might have, I'll be more than happy to help set that up.
Yeah, that'd sound great. Yeah, I haven't actually talked to Jackson before. I've briefed with him on a couple of comments, and I think I sent him a few emails, and he's gotten back to me a couple of times. But yeah, if you can set that up, that'd be pretty good. I'm not sure when I'd be available. That's,
no problem. No problem. We'll hammer it out because
I was about to say, young man, the fact that you are willing to even consider that, again, hats off. We've talked. Again, I've done a little homework on you, and I've heard some of the things you've said, and I don't care. That's the fact that you're willing to sit down with Jackson, or at least consider it, to me already puts you leaps and bounds ahead of some others. I whatever it's worth, I think you're on a great path. I really do. I think you should continue to study and talk to other people.
For the record, I made Matt Powell the exact same offer. We got into setting up a day and time, and Matt Powell backed out. Had no reason, just backed out. So, no clue why. If he wants to, I'll still set it up. As far as I'm concerned, I think Matt has come to a point where he's afraid to come on atheist channels because he can't hold his own, whereas you can. Which is a thing that he might consider learning a bit from you, Jonathan, because I think you could teach him a thing or two when it comes to having a conversation. So I did have one more question. I think we can leave that for maybe
No,
another.
you can ask. I have a couple more minutes.
Okay, so
Okay.
this would come back to the whole devil thing. Pine Snake asked, "Why did God create Lucifer when He knew that he would rebel, keeping in mind that the angels don't have free will?" Question mark. And also, why can't God vanquish the devil if he's powerful enough?
This is the same exact question when it comes like, well, why did God put the tree of knowledge and good and evil in the garden if He knew that Adam and Eve were going to eat of it? I mean,
Yep.
it's just a ridiculous question, and so many people have answered that. I'm just not going to give it.
Actually, let me jump in there. When you say it's a ridiculous question, it's actually not. It's
Well,
actually hold on. It's actually a legit question. So I'll ask you. You're years away from this, but let's say in your 20s or your 30s, you have an infant son or daughter. Would you put a loaded and cocked pistol in the crib with your 1-year-old child?
No, because that child doesn't have. Hold on. You asked me a question.
Exactly.
You want me to
No,
answer?
go ahead. And I already know where you're going, but please continue.
That child doesn't understand. Adam and Eve. Well, Adam actually understood.
No,
God really
they,
told
he,
him
he
that
actually did not. You could. So let me put this in there. You put the pistol in the crib with your 1-year-old, and you tell your 1-year-old, "Do not touch this item right here." Now, again, I was a Christian as well, so this is not a new story for me. You do understand that both Adam and Eve, even though they were told, "Don't touch this tree," neither one of them had the knowledge of the power of good and evil. So God gave them a command, not with them not having the programming to know
I don't.
the consequences. It's no different than
I
if
don't
you
think
put a
there's any
pistol.
scriptural evidence to say that they didn't have
You want to bet? Because again, you're talking to someone who was a Christian longer than you've been alive, and a hardcore one at that. Neither Adam nor Eve had the knowledge of good and evil, and God gave them a good and evil choice, and they failed. That is no different than you putting a Glock in your kid's pistol in your kid's crib and telling your 1-year-old, "Do not touch this item." The 1-year-old does not have the power to understand what dad just told them. Adam and Eve did not have the power to understand the consequences of the choice of eating from the fruit.
Well, God told them in the day that you
You're
eat
right.
the
You're right. He told them, "Don't do it." But they did not have the knowledge. Again, if your kid picks up that gun, I don't even believe in luck, but I'm knocking on wood for you because I like you, man. If your kid picks up that gun and pulls the trigger, it's your fault as the dad for even setting that situation up in the first place. God set up a situation where two infants had to make a right or wrong choice, but did not give them the power to understand the consequences of that choice. But yet, we as Christians, I used to be one of you, were taught to believe that they failed their test. They were not given them. I'm a 7th degree black belt. If I give a white belt a 1st degree black belt test and they fail, it's not their fault. It's my fault for expecting a beginner to understand 1st degree black belt knowledge. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. If God did not give Adam and Eve the knowledge of good and evil, but gave them a good and evil choice, is it their fault or God's fault?
This would go into a lot of philosophy, I think.
I don't think it does at all. I think that's pretty straightforward.
I don't have an answer for you right now at the moment.
That's fair. That's fair. But can we at least agree? Because again, you're talking to a former fundamentalist.
Mm-hmm.
Adam and Eve were born blank slates, and they did not have the knowledge of good and evil. That's biblical fundamentalism right there. God placed a tree right here. And the argument is, well, it was here, it was way over there, it was Kansas. Where he put it is irrelevant. The fact is, he placed a tree with the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, and he gave two people who didn't know the difference the choice of good and evil. That's biblical fundamentalism. That's really not even up for debate. So they take a bite, and that plunged the entire world into sin. Is that Adam and Eve's fault, or is it God's fault?
Well, it wasn't so much as Eve's fault as it was Adam's fault. You have to keep in mind.
I do understand.
Hold on,
Neither Adam nor Eve. Hold on. Neither Adam nor Eve had the knowledge.
Robert, let
Go ahead.
Robert, let him
Go ahead,
answer.
Jonathan. Go ahead, Jonathan. Go ahead.
All right. So Adam was more guilty per se than Eve, because the Bible tells in 2 Timothy, I believe it is, or 1 Timothy, I mean, it says that Adam, being in the Adam was the one that sinned, not Eve, because Eve was deceived, and Adam actually knew what he was doing, and so Eve didn't. God didn't actually. It's interesting too, because God didn't actually tell Eve directly, if you eat of this tree, this X is going to happen to you. Adam was the one that actually told Eve. So God didn't tell Eve. God didn't directly tell Eve, but Adam did, and Eve was just deceived. Adam was not deceived, but he was in the transgression. He had sinned, and so it was because of Adam's sin that led to the fall of man.
Okay,
So,
I think
We can, yeah.
hold
Go
on,
ahead.
hold on.
So
I think we're not going to hammer this out, because as we said, we would go about an hour and a half, and we've been past that point. Maybe it's something that you could think about, how someone who doesn't have the concept of good and evil can make a decision and throw in there whether it or not it is going to be good or evil to make that particular decision. Because I'm with Robert on this. If you don't know what evil is or what doing wrong is, there's no way that you could do wrong, because you need to have the concept taught to you first and explained to you first, which only happened after they ate from the fruit. But that's a question you could do an entire show about. So I don't think that we could hammer that out in this. I really want to end it on this note. What I also do is give the guest an opportunity to make a closing statement, last words. So floor is yours, Jonathan.
All right, thanks so much. I just want to say thanks to your name's Peter, right?
Yep.
And I want to say thanks also to Robert for having me on and talking to me. I really appreciate it. If anyone has found any of my arguments feasible or plausible or just straightforward, convincing, please check out my channel. The home video is on how to get to heaven. And if you're not sure that you're on your way to heaven, please check out that video. It's a older video, and I sound a little younger than I do now, but just the content is what it's about.
You're talking to two old guys, and you're telling us that you feel younger.
Yeah.
That hurts, man. That really hurts. I mean, I'm close to 60. I mean, that hurts.
And I'm almost 50, so yeah, man.
But
you're a good kid. You're a good person.
Yeah, here's what I'm going to do. I haven't done it yet, but I'll put a link to your channel in the description, so people who want to check you out can check you out. I will also put in the description that if they're going to contact you, they be respectful. You have been towards us, and I hope we have been towards you, and I think that is a given. I mean, if they're just going to go over there and troll, I would strongly disagree with actions like that, because apparently, and this is what the past hour and a half has been about, people can actually talk to you in a civil way and have a decent conversation. So if they want to talk to you, they should do so in a civil manner, just like we had on here today. Something you may like or strongly dislike. We do have a little commercial at the end for a book that Jackson Wheaton RJ just put out. Thanks again, Jonathan, for coming on, and I'll be looking forward to having you back on. You're welcome on the channel anytime. And as I said, for the next one, you can pick the topic. If you have 10 topics, we'll do 10 shows, no problem. Because it's been a joy talking to you, and I'm pretty sure I'm talking for Robert as well when I say that.
Yeah.
So, and I want to thank the people in the side chat, people who I didn't get to all the questions because I missed I think several of them. No problem. If there are any questions, shoot me a DM on Twitter. And should we have Jonathan back on, I'll be more than happy to ask those questions.
Also, you could send me those questions via email and forward them to me, and I'll try to do my best to answer them.
If you want, I'll put your email address in there. I probably.
I'd rather have them contact me some other like go to my channel, because it's just like going over on other channels and just giving out my email. But yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll put the link to your channel down below, and people can go find you there.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so Robert, thanks for jumping on, and we'll catch you all later. I'm still hammering out times with people. Maybe Standing for Truth wants to come on, so I'll slip him in if he wants to, and we'll see when we're back. Catch you all later, and thank you everyone for joining. Bye bye.